Everybody seems to be talking about Codex right now, but is it really the best AI coder and AI productivity tool? In this video, I'm going to walk you through the Codex alternatives you need to know about. I've been using Codex a lot lately and really enjoying it, so it's going to take a lot for me to recommend a tool over Codex, but let's jump into the video. The tool that is most like Codex is Claude Code. So this is the Claude app on my computer. The reason that it's the most like Codex is because it has both the code tab. So Claude Code is basically just a coding tool. So it's going to write code. It's going to all be on your own computer. This is similar to Codex, which also writes code onto the user's computer. And then there's also the Cowork feature within the Claude app. And this is something that Claude beat OpenAI to the punch on. But Codex is now adding its own productivity features like integrations to Gmail, the ability to do a really good job at analyzing spreadsheets and creating spreadsheets and analysis and non-coding tasks. So right now, I would still say Claude Cowork is the more advanced tool for productivity. So as of now, I would still choose Cowork for that. The Codex is getting really good. And for code, both tools are really great. I tend to use Claude Code a little bit more just because that's kind of my habit. But in my experience using Codex, especially with the new GPT 5.5 models, I found it to be really good. And I also find the rate limits to last a little bit longer on OpenAI's Codex app versus Claude Code. So I think both are really great tools. Claude is I think, top competitor to Codex, although I'm going to talk about some other tools that I think are really interesting later in this video. But that's kind of how I think about it. The one additional thing that Claude has in their Claude app, as opposed to Codex, is Claude has everything integrated into one desktop app. We have Code, Cowork, and Chat. Chat is just the basic Claude chat, very similar to ChatGPT. This is all in the cloud. It's not on your local computer. So everything's integrated, which is really nice. With Codex, you have the Codex app, which is for coding and productivity, all on your computer, locally on your computer. And then you have the ChatGPT app, which is separate. That's their consumer product that's separate. I really don't think they're going to integrate all of that because ChatGPT is just a completely separate audience. Whereas for Claude, they're really going after the kind of business user. So they're able to integrate it all into one. So that's kind of the differences there. Of course, the other difference is the models that you're going to use. The Claude models here versus the OpenAI models on Codex. I actually think the OpenAI models are really good recently. And sometimes I think people just only use, the Claude models because that's what they're used to, but they don't realize that OpenAI has released some really good models in the meantime. So they haven't even tried GPT 5.5, for example, which I think is really good. So hopefully now you're starting to understand how this ecosystem works and how these companies are building things for professionals to both write code and be productive. The next tool I want to talk about is Manus. Now, Manus is more on the productivity side of things. So if you're looking for a Codex alternative, but you're not as interested in coding, although Manus can code for you, especially if you want to build prototypes, landing pages, more simple type of coding tasks. Manus is going to be really great for that. If you want to build, really complex apps using the most powerful models, in that case, I would choose Claude Code or Codex, or there's a tool I'm going to talk about later in this video that you might want to consider that I think is really powerful. But Manus is more of a productivity tool. So it can create slideshows, for example. It can create designs. It can build, as I mentioned, web apps. So this is great for, in my opinion, like the first prototype, first version. We can also do research tasks. It's really good at doing research tasks. So Manus is kind of, again, more on the productivity side of things, but still a really great alternative that you should be aware of. Now, this is the tool that you should consider using instead of Codex if you want to develop code. You want to write code. Factory.ai is an agent-native software development tool. Now, what makes Factory different from a tool like Codex is with Factory, you can use multiple models. So you don't have to just use the Codex models, the OpenAI models, and the Claude models. You have access to both. There's also some really nice features built into the app to help agents build, design, manage, and actually ship the software. So I think that Factory is definitely worth looking into, especially if you are writing complex code. Now, if you're building more simple software, it might not be worth it, but it is only $20 to try it out. So same price as ChatGPT Pro, for example, or the $20 ChatGPT plan. So you can try it out for a low price and see what you think. But yeah, this is like one of the really nice benefits. There's two kind of main benefits of Factory. One is that you have the latest versions of all of the models, and it has its own structure built around its agents. So, it's going to write code in a different way than Codex will. And all of these tools, some of it is based off of Vibe, and you go in, you see kind of which one you prefer in terms of how it writes code. But Factory, in terms of writing code, is definitely one that you should consider. And it's a great alternative to Codex for writing code. The next alternative is Cursor. So Cursor, this is one of the most popular coding interfaces out there. It's really meant for writing code. They are starting to build some more productivity features into it, but it's really a code editor, a code writer. Similar to Factory, one of the benefits here is that you have access to any model that you want. It is going to be more expensive. Like, you're going to get less tokens out of Cursor than you're going to get with directly inside of Codex. But you do get all the models, and they do have their own in-house model for writing code, which I actually found to be really good, the Composer model, and that's really affordable. Just a few weeks ago, SpaceX entered into an agreement with Cursor that basically says they can either buy Cursor for $60 billion or pay $10 billion for some work that they're doing together. So it's very likely that Cursor may end up acquired by SpaceX, which is really interesting. And I wonder how that's all going to fit into XAI and how that might change the competitive landscape of how this could look. And imagine if all of the XAI models, the Grok models, if they can start to really catch up to the OpenAI models, to the Claude models, this could be a really, really good option. Now, I personally just like using Codex because of how economical it is and how much you can get out of that $20 price, because they're subsidizing the models. Now, when you're using a tool like Factory or Cursor, they have to pay for the API costs to OpenAI or Claude. So just by default, you're going to get less value out of the tokens. But again, there's a few things that Cursor does really well. One is they have a really good structure around how the agents are going to think, plan, and write code. It does a really good job at that. That is their entire business, and they're really focused on doing a good job with that. They have agents that can write code for you. And there's also a marketplace inside of Cursor that you can extend Cursor. Now, these are things that also Codex has and they're building on. So it's not as much of a differentiator as it used to be. But again, Cursor is one of the top alternatives here to Codex. And again, I think worth trying out. I think for non-developers, Cursor has a really good UI to get started with AI coding, as opposed to Codex and Claude Code, which is a little bit more a black box. So if you kind of write something, you get something back, but you don't really know what's happening. Finally, I'm going to talk about Lovable. Now, Lovable is a great alternative to Codex if you are a non-coder, non-developer, and you just want to build something simple. So I'm going to talk through a little bit more about what the main use cases are for Lovable. So here on the right side, we've got prototyping and we've got internal tools. Those are the two top use cases for Lovable. If you want to go beyond that, I would recommend using Codex. If you want to build productivity, analysis, things like that, I would recommend using Codex. But if you just want to prototype something, Lovable is really great. It can have an integrated backend. The design is really nice. It can build user authentication. It does all of these things all in one. And there's other tools as well. There's many, many tools. We've covered a lot on our channel. So check out our videos on our channel for lots of all-in-one tools like this. There are a lot that you can look at, but Lovable is like the most well-known, I would say. And then internal tools, building custom tools from your workflows, data, and ideas, which is kind of the same as prototyping, but just a little bit more kind of something that you're going to have other people use. Some examples of what you can do, like a slide deck builder, campaign dashboard. There's a lot that you can build here in Lovable for internal tools. And it's interesting as well that like on their homepage, on their solutions tab, they are telling you exactly who it's for. And they're telling you the two use cases where you are going to get the most value out of Lovable. And they're kind of saying for other use cases, you probably shouldn't use Lovable. You should use a different tool for other use cases. And I think that's actually really interesting and smart that they are doing it in that way. Let me know in the comments if there's any tools you think are alternatives to Codex that I didn't cover in this video, and I can make another video in the future to talk more about it. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. There is so much new happening in the AI world. Things are changing so quickly. The top alternatives to Codex in 6 months might be completely different than what we have now. The capabilities of Codex might be completely different in 6 months than they are now. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to make sure you stay up to date, and also check out our most recent videos. We're doing a series on Codex right now, so you can get fully up to date on how to use Codex, the use cases. There's a lot of new features that have been added to Codex recently, so you're going to want to check that out.